popping, y'all? The homie Tyler Olivera gonna drop some new hot shit. Sweden. All right, I know that shit he dropped about Poland was crazy. Pretty, got me a lot of views too. You know what I'm saying? Reacting to that thing, and I mean, a lot of people were commenting too. Like, not I'm say talking shit, but they were just commenting like, with their opinion about it. I guess because people are gonna defend their country. Nobody wasn't talking about Poland like that. It was just that president guy or that guy that was in Congress or whatever was hilarious. So whatever. But all I see is tweeting right here. I'm gonna hit a little bit of rerun real quick to start over, and we're gonna get it cracking.
This is Sweden, the country that will pay immigrants $34,000 to go back home.
Why would you even place people to live here? You placed us in one area.
I've been to Sweden. Actually, another one of my very successful videos on my Travel BK channel. Check it out if you want to check it out. People love the Sweden video. It was cool. I was only there for like 2 days. Pulled up on my little cousin, and he just has that baby with a person from out there, and it was cool. I like Sweden. It was dope. For me, the food was okay, but I didn't get a chance to dive into it like that. But the McDonald's was good.
And then they just put all the bad things on us. We're like the scapegoat.
So Sweden has never been like this blue-eyed, blonde country. The idea of a national state is old.
We have as many bombings per capita as in Mexico.
Whoa.
2 people are dead in a knife attack at an IKEA store in Sweden.
Niggas crazy.
Du kommer inte upp här. Därför han högg mig med en kniv. Såg ni det?
Yo,
Sweden
what
began
the
to
fuck?
experience a surge in gang violence, drug trafficking, shootings, grenade explosions, gang rapes, and
First
other
thing they do is
violent
blame the
crimes when
immigrants, blame the black, but there's
163,000
no black out
migrants
there either.
fled to Sweden during the refugee
black is
crisis in
immigrants out there.
2015 from countries like Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, leading the Swedish public to wonder if integration was possible. And
They blame black people though, but a lot of them gangs and a lot of people you can get drugs from are people from, we'll just say from the Arabic-speaking background. Them usually the gangsters out there. They're the ones that usually behold the trap down and shit like that. So
if the benefits of importing third world
What do I
migrants were worth the diversity and cheap labor they brought, with some Swedish politicians using the rising crime to argue for less open borders, others fear it may lead to unjust vilification of many peaceful, productive migrants seeking a better life away from their war-torn country. But does multiculturalism work? Does Sweden want more migrants? Are these migrants trying to assimilate into Swedish society? And what does it mean to be a Swede in 2024?
What are your thoughts on migration?
I think it's a good thing, because some people, people from places like, for example, Ukraine or Palestine, they need somewhere to go. We have, unfortunately, the government in Sweden is a little bit, racist, I think.
Okay.
So,
Are there any negatives you've observed or heard of?
Yeah, of
Everywhere
course,
in Europe is racist. Shit.
shootings and stuff like that, but it's what it is.
Sweden is
He's
a
like,
very
I don't
interesting
want to
place
touch
for
that subject.
multiculturalism. I lived here in 2012 and it was very homogenous at that time. I noticed, this is my first time back in 12 years, and I noticed
Oh, he's
that
American.
It's become a little bit more diverse. I'm not sure necessarily how Swedes feel about that diversity.
What specifically do Swedish people gain from the importation of third world migrants?
I mean, I work in the healthcare system, and I have colleagues coming from all over the world. And we need those people. So for the moment, birth rates are going down, and we really need to even out the population pyramid.
I think Sweden has an obligation to let people from other places in. Let's say a refugee.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
We at least did have the finances. I think that we should be a helpful country. I think it's important to be open, but I also think that we need to be responsible to the people that we are welcoming to this country to make them integrate as good as possibly can be done.
I think the general idea now in this country is that we want to be more reluctant in letting in too much because we've seen how things can escalate.
The remigration concept, I'm sure you've heard of it. I don't think that's going to work. Okay. To be honest. Do you think it'll be effective? Will people go home if offered the sufficient amount? I don't think so. Okay.
Damn, that's high D. They're gonna offer you money
Depends
to
on what
leave
country
the
and I
country.
mean it's
Damn, that's
always
crazy.
okay, so this is where things get a little more nuanced,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I've heard that they are enacting some new things. They're trying to with paying some people to leave. I think they have lots of.
I'm very confused because some of them talk very perfect, we'll say English, I guess, and maybe they're from there, or are they transplants or whatever that word is, or is it called Pates? What's it called again? That thing when people live in other countries again? Expats. There we go. That's the word I look for.
Room and lots of opportunity to spend their money in better ways. And I think it's already hard with getting like a personal number and things here. So I think there's a lot more that can be done for immigrants coming to Sweden.
Why is diversity
Is
good
a
in your
personal
opinion?
number like your social
I
security
think
number?
we need skills and competence from other countries. I also think that we do get a lot of benefits from other cultural aspects. Food.
What are your thoughts on multiculturalism here in Sweden?
Yeah, it's like a big melting pot.
Does it work well?
Yeah, it works. Yes.
You consider yourself a Swede?
No.
No? Why not?
Different culture. I have different culture.
What does it mean to be Swedish?
In my opinion, Swedish means to be open, to be interested in internationalism.
I think that we should be more welcoming and like trying to get them into the society, because now it's more like they get casted out into these like cities outside the city.
All right.
And they get all like bundled up there. The government are like, oh my god, there's criminality going on.
Is there criminality, or is that myth?
It's a big problem.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's because these people don't get like integrated into society, so they have to do certain things to like survive.
What you
and get
mean,
money
these
because
people?
the government doesn't help them. I think.
Classic.
You know, it was thousands of them coming. Well, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
That
Too
was
much?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
We couldn't take care of them.
Sure. Do you think these people that are coming to Sweden are trying to integrate or not trying to integrate?
Oh, that depends on what culture they come from.
Okay.
Well, you know, in the 80s or 70s, there comes a lot of Indians from Africa.
Okay.
They have integrated very well.
Very well. First of all, where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria. I came to study for a PhD, Department of Economic History and International Relations.
So you've been here for 7 years now?
About 7 years now, yes.
Do you feel Swedish?
Not fully yet. I don't speak good Swedish yet.
Okay.
But the other thing also is that, you know, the Swedish community is not as open as many other communities. The access sometimes is not there. You have friends that you come to maybe meet at workplace or in school and things like that. But I don't think it goes beyond that in most cases. The bond is not usually there like that.
Do you think as an outsider it's tougher to integrate here?
I think so.
What are your thoughts on immigrants coming to Sweden? Good or bad thing?
I really like it.
Okay.
My wife is from Colombia.
Okay.
Yeah. Multiculturalism has made Sweden a better place compared to what it was like when I was growing up. So I'm all in favor.
Do you think multiculturalism...
Can you imagine Sweden in the fucking 90s? Oh my god, like before any kind of like huge migration went out there, or we'll say immigrants? Holy shit, they were probably racist.
Here in Sweden works?
It is a very tough question because it has pros and cons. I have seen
What do
so
I
many
know?
people that think that multiculturalism is diluting, you know, the Swedish culture. However, what I know as somebody that is a researcher is that culture is not static. Culture is dynamic. There are some things that even in Sweden, that Swedish people used to do 50 years ago, that when people do now, they will consider to be appalling.
Sure.
And this is what it is. Things are always changing. Multiculturalism has some advantages in that. For example, somebody like me that came for a PhD,
Yeah.
I will consider myself to be an expert, at least in my field.
Yeah.
And that is an addition to Sweden. And there are so many that will bring their experiences, very smart people that can contribute to the system. At the same time, you have people that constitute nuisance within the system. These sort of people are not limited to the migrant community, because you find very people with misdemeanor, so to speak.
Our lives are so integrated with other countries, so I think small countries especially are really depending on migration. So
Is it currently working?
not as good as I think it can do.
Okay.
It's developed the society, I think, to learn from different cultures. I think we have a lot to thank multicultural for, actually, like the food cultural, it gives job opportunities.
Yeah, I love multicultural Sweden. Yeah, I think it works.
Look at this pro.
And, I love diversity. I mean,
Right.
the whole Swedish culture is based on immigration and migration from other countries and so forth. Yeah.
And if I were to move here to Sweden, could I become Swedish?
Yeah, I'd say so.
You think
Yeah.
All right. If
But the thing is, that's just because you're American. If you were from another country, or you wouldn't be welcome. But since you're American or highly educated,
What are you talking
no,
about?
that's what.
No,
So if I came from Somalia, would I be welcomed?
That nigga started laughing.
They would put you in like the ghetto. And
They would put me there, or I would move there because
you would move there, and since the financial issue in Sweden, like it's not very good right now, you would have to learn Swedish, and then the society would look down upon you, or would look down on you.
You have the marginalization.
Yes, and then.
And you're thinking something.
No, I agree. I understand where he's coming from, and definitely there is an issue
Right.
in Sweden that we have to work on.
The gun
But
violence
I'm
and-
happy you're talking about this because
It's something that needs to be said. It's important to get light on, yeah. But it's easy to look at Sweden. Oh, such a beautiful country.
It's very pretty.
It is. I love Sweden. But I mean, you can tell I'm not typical Swedish, but I feel I fit in.
Okay.
It's about how you grow up.
Can we get a dance before we leave? Can we see you guys? There we go. There we go. The wonders of multiculturalism.
So I headed to Rinkeby, the infamous no-go zone, where the 60 Minutes camera crew got attacked and this guy fought back in his wheelchair. With 91% of Rinkeby's population immigrants as of 2018, it's a symbol of the parallel societies in Sweden, where migrants seem to live in an entirely different world than the rest of their Swedish neighbors, and some say it represents the problems that arise when migrants do not properly integrate into Swedish society. But real quick,
Did you know 2.9 billion records were stolen from national public data a few months ago?
It is, yes.
Okay. What's going on there?
You have open drug selling on the
Okay.
streets. You have multiple gangs from Rinkeby.
This is where the Swedish
I hate
gangs are?
To some extent, yeah.
See, why they gotta try to make it seem
We
like
got
it's
some
like
people
a
out here.
Muslim area?
Excuse me, question for you. Where are you from? Where are you from?
Oj, jag vet inte. Jag är ny.
You from Sweden?
Nej.
Where are you from?
Oj, jag kan inte.
Country?
Jag kan inte svenska prata.
Okay.
Ja.
Okay. We got a shop right here. We're basically in a little Middle Eastern community, it seems like. All right, so rumor has it we're in a no-go zone. Obviously, we've gone. The question is, will we go back home in one piece? Where are they from? Why did they come here? How is life? Let's go find out. How long have you lived in Rinkeby?
For about a year.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Syria.
Okay.
But I have lived in Rissne, which is very close to here. So yeah.
Okay, so you're born and raised here in Sweden?
No, I came here in 2015. So
From Syria?
yeah.
So how's your experience been in Sweden as a Syrian?
Well, it was fine. I grew up here, so it feels like natural being from Sweden.
Yeah.
Or, I was young, so
Okay.
I don't really know I didn't have that like tough experience or so. But yeah, it's a nice place actually. Before I moved here, I heard that it was like
The hood, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I like Rinkeby
Because
actually.
they call it a no-go zone. Is that accurate? I mean, we're here, right?
Absolutely not.
No?
I go to the gym like at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
It's fine. As long as you're not involved in the gangs and so on, you're fine, I would
Okay.
say.
Is this a sort of parallel society, as they call it? Different world within a world sort of thing?
They want it to be like that. Actually,
The Swedes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say they act like no, we want you to be involved
Okay.
and be a part of the society. But why would you even place people to live here? You placed us in one like area, and then they just put all the bad things on us. We're like the scapegoat. Basically, we sell the drugs, they buy them.
Sure.
But if they wouldn't buy, we wouldn't sell.
So let me ask you this.
Everyone said I'd have to put my life on hold to earn a T.
That shit's hella sick, bro. That's crazy. Damn it. It's funny because I'm sitting there pondering like, damn, I wish I would have went there. You know, I didn't know about this shit, but it probably wasn't as. I mean, well, it was 2 years ago, but I don't think maybe a lot has changed in about a year or two, especially with all of the quote unquote migrants coming into these different countries and the way they're coming in. They're coming in deep. They're just coming. Yeah, they're coming in fast, and like a lot of them and stuff. But I don't even remember this being a thing 2 years ago when I went out there. To be honest with you, but there was a bunch of like Somalian homies and stuff, Ethiopians everywhere, and shit like that. So and other Eritreans and everywhere. You know what I mean? But damn. Well, let's get back to this video.
People have economic opportunity outside of some of this criminality, like the drug selling, or are young men kind of just like, okay, I guess I'll go sell drugs?
Well, Sweden have a free education. You can become a doctor and you get money from CSN,
Okay.
for example, for studying. I get 4,000 crowns every
going
month.
to become a doctor?
Yeah,
Okay,
every
smart.
month. So it's like $400. You get money to
Paid to
study.
study.
Exactly.
Why are people getting involved in gangs then?
Well, I think that they have a different background. People from like war and things like that.
Sure.
And many kids grow up here with no passion. Schools doesn't have any type of like good education that discipline kids. They don't have that.
Why come to Sweden if the Swedens aren't, let's say, welcoming and
Because, well, our countries, people are suffering there. As you see now in Gaza,
Yeah.
people are dying, basically.
That makes sense. I guess my question is why Sweden specifically and not maybe a neighboring like UAE or a Middle Eastern country?
I would say because UAE and so on, they didn't open doors.
Okay.
Actually, they are Muslim countries and they are our people somehow, but they didn't open their doors. It was Sweden and Germany.
Where are you from originally?
I am from Palestine.
Palestine.
Yeah.
Okay.
speaks English.
How do you like Sweden?
I'm weak.
Good. Are they welcoming to refugees?
That's funny.
Yeah, I drive bus.
You drive bus?
Yeah,
And you've been here for how long?
20 years.
20
Oh,
years.
okay. So you've been there
Do
for
you
a
plan
while,
on staying
obviously.
in Sweden forever?
No, not now. Not this. Not because the new politique. This is a.
Oh, the new politics are bad?
This is different.
How so? Bad?
Yeah.
In what ways?
Everything.
How so?
Economy.
Immigration?
Yeah.
How they treat you?
Not for me. I have Medbori. I have
Okay,
pass.
so you're in.
I'm from Sweden, Serbia, and Peru.
Okay, are you born and raised here in Sweden?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Rinkeby?
My thoughts in that sense, I don't know. It's a beautiful place in some senses, but I think every place has its problems.
Okay. What are some of the good things about this place? What are some of the bad things?
I would say like it's very common for people to really get to know each other. It's very family. Like we normally accept people from other places. I think many people have bad thoughts about this place. Yes, because it's a place where maybe it's very mixed with the cultures. And I think people normally have the tendency to really give this place a shot, like a really good chance. And I think if people would do that, it would get along with people living here. I think people already have racist thoughts about this place.
I think that we are involved in the society. Many Syrians educate and go to universities and so on. So I'm not saying that the immigrants is very like not doing bad things.
Sure.
They are, and maybe they aren't like following the rules and so on. But the government could do better.
What's one change you'd like to see in the government?
Don't spread propaganda on social media
Okay.
about us immigrants being the people who kill and so on. Because when it's a Swedish man who like commits a rape, they said a man. When it's a black man, they would put his name or something that shows you that he is not from Sweden.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we are committing more crimes than Swedes because they do commit crimes, but the media doesn't show.
Why are there so many shootings here?
Gang crimes.
Yeah. Why do people, from your understanding or speculation, get involved in gangs out here?
I would say the main reason maybe you cannot pay your bills. I don't think everyone chooses to do these things.
And also,
I'd be like, go on down the road, you fuck.
if you want to support our boots on the ground, independent
Oh,
journalism
Lord knows
that's
what he
not
said.
bought and paid for by corporate interests, along with
Sheesh.
exclusive DLC content that YouTube won't let me upload, and uncensored early access to all my videos before they go
Was
up
that
on
Dolly
YouTube,
Parton?
go subscribe at patreon.com/Tyler Oliveira for less than $5 a month. A lot of heterogeneous cultures here. We got kokab, East African products, Thai, sushi. So we're in Rinkeby, and here we are. This is what the famous spot where the wheelchair guy drove into the dude attacking the boom mic operator. So we're noticing, just do a pan here, every walk of life we're seeing. So we got a cool ethnic market here. We got Palestine Cola. This is truly a melting pot we're witnessing. This reminds me of New York in a lot of ways. And last but not least, the Islamic Cultural Center. We're in front of the police station of Rinkeby. Can you tell me some of the problems and difficulties they face building this place?
Yeah, so when they started building this place a couple of years ago, the construction workers got attacked, and they had a really hard time also getting the stuff here because of like roadblocks and stuff. So
Who were they getting attacked by?
like local gangs and gang members.
That didn't want a police station right in the heart of Rinkeby?
Yeah.
For obvious reasons?
Yeah, for obvious reasons, you know. At some point, you perhaps also could understand that from a criminal point of view. You know, having a police station like this, also quite big, you could understand that, of course. On this building, you have like fireproof walls from the outside as well, to not like be able to throw Molotov cocktails and stuff.
Fireproof, bulletproof, drive-proof.
Yeah.
Why?
Because we are in Rinkeby, and
this is a fortress we're looking at right here.
so what they also do is they escort police from here and to work. So for example, if you're a local policeman here and you arrest someone here at the center, then you go back here, change uniform, and walk to the subway station
with police guards.
Yeah, exactly.
The police themselves are afraid of getting attacked after they do their job and arrest people here.
Yeah, and that's why they got escort from here.
But I wanted to hear from an immigrant who moved to Sweden when she was 20 and became the first black police officer in Sweden. Is integration possible? And why are so many migrant youth turning to a life of crime? And we're in a big police compound. This place is fortified. Why is that?
I mean, it starts with for maybe 10 years ago, we have community policing and we have small stations. And then one day someone threw a hand grenade on the building, and then the politicians decide that we should build a huge police station that will be in Rinkeby. I became police officer 2006, right? So between 2006 to 2015, or 14, everything was cool here.
Sure.
You have more like small crimes like burglary and theft, those small things. After 2015, then we start the gang violence in Sweden, and then we have certain group who start to build kind of gang, what they call themselves. Sure. We are having shooting before in Södertälje, where we have immigrants from Middle East, but Christian immigrants from Middle East, who also build their own, kind of gang. It's more like mafia. I mean, and burning cars, they shooting, throwing stone on the police officers. But now, from 2021 up to now, everything's quiet here because we were not sitting down and watching them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Start from 2015. Yeah.
During the refugee crisis?
Yeah, that's most of the people say that it's because of the refugees, but I can say because most of the people who are in the gang violence, most of them born here in Sweden.
Okay.
And they came to Sweden for many years ago. They are not like the new migrant.
So these are second gen
Second
children
gen,
of immigrants?
there we go.
Of course.
Second
Those
gen that
youth,
didn't want to go to school.
they
and stuff
have
like
to
that.
feel that they're part
They
of
want
the
to listen to
society. They are Swedish too.
Easy to manipulate your parents when you're a second generation, bro, and you're out here, They don't really get the culture. They're acclimated, but they're not acclimated to where, trust me, the second gen shit, it's a lot of sneaking out. It's way more easier. I'm just going to say it. It's just way more easier to manipulate your parents and shit when you're out here and they don't get what's going on, but they get what's going on. They get the program, but they don't get the program. Thank you.
You cannot give a person identity at the same time making the person feeling that you're not a part of this society because you look different. In living in an area where most of them are immigrants, how can you be a part of the society if you don't know the rules, you don't know the culture, you're not learning anything?
If I were a kid and if I were to throw a grenade into this room, for instance, what could you do as a police officer, and then how would the court system take me in as, let's say, a 13-year-old?
I'm a 13-year-old. I mean, nothing gonna happen.
Nothing would happen?
No.
You would take me into custody and
we don't gonna take you to custody. We'll take you, and the social will take over the whole investigation. A young man in a kind of how do you call it, HBV or CIS is a kind of it's not really jail, but it's more like a place where they get educated. Or
even if I were to throw a grenade at a police officer,
that's the system in Sweden. I say that they should throw them to jail, and they have to learn. If you throw a hand grenade, you can get 10 years old. If they caught you with the arm, a gun, 10 years old. If you sit down there, you're gonna start to think. At the same time, the government have to prepare. But what's happening in Sweden is like they throw you in
juvenile hall
prison,
sounds
and then
hella
after you
easy
get out,
out
you don't
there.
have
That's
anything.
terrible.
Where do you go? You go back to your friends.
sure, and then you throw another hand grenade or shoot someone else.
Or because your parents are from another country, you have to learn Swedish too. Why Swedish too? Why don't I study Swedish as my Swedish?
Okay. Swedish is taking these young children who are born here to learn Swedish as their second language.
Exactly.
And they're born in Sweden.
Yes.
But they're never going to truly feel Swedish.
Exactly. They try to do that with me. My father came to the school and said, hey, what?
Let's say an immigrant is coming here to Sweden right now. Can they become Swedish? Can they integrate into society?
They can if you make it easy for them, give them the tools, make it easy for them, like the parents to be parents. They have to also to tell us immigrants coming here, okay, if you come to my country, this is the law. No one is telling you. Everyone is going to the suburb. How do we know about what we have to do? You have to tell me. This is the law. We want you to follow it. Now they are saying that. Even they're still saying that, but they are not telling what to do either. They have to be proud themselves about their own culture before they can introduce that culture to me. If they don't know about the culture themselves, how can they introduce the culture to me as a foreigner? They have to know who they are first before they tell us who we are.
Or who they want you to be.
Who they want us to be. As the Swedish, what's the Swedish culture? They will say, yeah,
openness,
stand in a queue. You go to, that's not a culture. They can't define their own culture.
The segregation in this country is what you're seeing in many different places like this. We were just visiting central Stockholm the other day, and there you saw a whole other picture.
Totally different.
Totally different.
This is entirely Middle Eastern and African people in Sweden.
Yeah,
because you guys let them in and you guys welcomed them.
Yeah, we had the prime ministers talking on national television to open our hearts and to be accepting.
Sure, so, and you did.
Yeah, for almost 40 years, perhaps.
And now you're paying some of these people 34,000 USD to go back? Is that the idea?
Yeah, the current government has imposed an amount of money to return back. It got quite big in Sweden with multiple headlines of a full plane going back to Iraq.
After hearing from Risa, I met up with Marcus, the chairman of the Conservative Student Union at University of Stockholm, Dilan Osman, a Muslim activist, journalist, and second-gen Somalian immigrant, and Arvid, a spokesman from a conservative think tank Oikos, to see if they too thought it was the government's fault that migrant youth are struggling to integrate.
Sweden has always had minorities. Sweden portrays itself as a, how do you say it, homogeneous country, where everyone is white and blonde and so on. But there has been minorities in Sweden for centuries. So Sweden has never been like this blue-eyed, blonde country. But in the 1930s, we had a lot of migration, mainly because of war. The last decades because of the wars. But in the beginning of the 90s, Sweden became a kind of racist country. We funded the Race Biology Institute, where you measured people's heads, even sterilized minorities.
Are the people themselves trying to integrate themselves into society?
That's crazy.
Where's the disconnect?
Yeah, well, of course, a lot of them actually are integrating society. Yeah. That would be righteous to say. But and the government is trying, but they have for a long time tried to.
If you're watching and probably thinking, "What's the big deal?" or whatever, I believe they said Swedish is one of the hardest languages to learn, and why even my cousin, he was gonna stay out there, but he was just kind of well, if you don't know Swedish, you can't get a job at all. You must know, write and say and talk fluent Swedish out there to get a decent and I think a recognized job. I'm sure other people can work under the table and shit, but you know what I mean, by the way.
Just throw money at these places, but for some reason they are not being able to integrate anyways.
Why is that?
Yeah, I don't think they want to integrate. I think that's the answer. They came to Sweden for the economical incentives. They didn't come here to become Swedes. So I think a lot of people, their own background is quite solid. They want to keep that as well. For example, something obvious these days that we cannot take in infinite of number of new people from a different culture, right? You have to have this integration, assimilation process. That was highly controversial in Sweden for 15 years ago. So we're having this political thinking, which is not controversial at all, really, in the parliament already through the Swedish Democrats and stuff, and they're not far-right, alt-right people at all. Everyone is concerned about the criminality that's coming up through second and first generation migrants, so everyone is very concerned. And
well, in a way, we're trying to rediscover what Swedish conservatism is. One can say, at least, that what has really rejuvenated Swedish conservatism, the impulse which has made it relevant again, is an opposition to uncontrolled immigration, which has been the dominant political issue in Sweden for now at least 15 years. There are many different kinds of negative effects of uncontrolled third world mass immigration. One obvious is crime. Today we have gangsterism in Sweden like interwar Chicago. We have as many bombings per capita as in Mexico. So and Sweden used to be a very, very safe country.
There's a bunch of studies about this. If you're named
Mohammed, let's say.
Yeah, Fatima or Mohammed, then you have a lesser chance to get a job or buy a house. That doesn't mean that because your name is Fatima Mohammed, your life will suck. But there's been a lot of studies when it comes to the racist culture in Sweden. We have a tendency to not acknowledge that racism exists in Sweden because of, you said that Sweden has always been welcoming toward refugees, and that's kind of true in some sense. I think that has also been like an excuse to not acknowledge the racist society that we live in.
The Swedish media was that if you opposed immigration on any ground, that means you're a racist. Even if you said that there might be some potential downside, you're a racist. Swedish public debate is like a school of fish, right?
Yeah.
So everyone changes position at the same time. So now everyone is kind of opposed to this. But up until 2015, this was, and that's why the Sweden Democrats grew so much. They had a monopoly on saying that immigration could possibly be a bad thing. Now you have like 5 parties to say that bad or, not too good. So there's far more competition in that way. I saw some data from The Economist today. This was not from Sweden, it was from Denmark, but should be pretty much the same, where they had looked at the fiscal effects of immigration from different parts of the world. But the average effect from an immigrant from the Middle East and North Africa was that they were a fiscal burden throughout their life, even, and this is important, even in their prime working age.
Do you think migrants from Muslim countries are integrating well into Sweden, and is Sweden helping them integrate into Sweden?
I'm kind of allergic to the integration.
Tell me why.
The only way to adapt to a society is that you get the chance to have a job, to have a good education. That for me is like integration. But in the Swedish society, we are more talking about assimilation, that people that are coming to Sweden has to change the way they are. And that's problematic. People don't have to have one identity. They can have multiple. Like a couple days ago, it was a debate in Sweden between the party leaders, and the leader for the Christ Democrats said that Islam doesn't always adapt to Swedish values. What does that mean? I'm a Swedish Muslim. In which way is there a conflict between Islam and Sweden? That's a false narrative, and that's the problem with the society.
Do you think some of the laws or precepts in the Quran and the precepts of Islam conflict with Swedish society and Swedish law?
First of all, if you look at the world population, 1/4 is Muslims. The way someone see Islam in Afghanistan or in Somalia or in Iran or in Sweden is obviously different. We have lots of different interpretations of what Islam is. I don't believe in the concept that Islam is one thing that has a conflict with Western values.
So Swedes have, I think, a much harder way grappling with and understanding Islam than people would have in the US or in Poland, where people actually still believe in God. For Swedes, Islam is just some superficial thing. It's like, they don't drink alcohol, but maybe there are Swedes who don't drink alcohol either. The fact that people would actually care deeply about religion is an alien idea to many Swedes. People didn't imagine at all that we would have a large number of mosques in Sweden, or maybe it would be a temporary thing because Muslims should stop being Muslims, because why would they be Muslims?
So the expectation was these Muslim migrants would leave their religion behind and become truly Swedish.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Okay.
Wow. So, for example, we have a big issue in Sweden with rapes, sexual assaults, and they are coming from first-generation migrants. But we also have having a big issue with gang criminals, which is completely unique for Sweden. We haven't had that before, and that is a result of the second generation of migrants not integrating in Swedish society.
So why do you think second generation non-ethnically Swedish youth are becoming members of gangs and committing crimes disproportionately?
There's individual factors when it comes to mental health, or that many of them have ADHD or have had trouble in school.
No, why are they
that
burning multiple cars?
That everyone that come from like a single household or from a poor environment or have ADHD will go into gang violence. But we have a huge problem.
I think it's, so for example, they are growing up in an environment which is not, there are no incentives to get involved in the majority society, and they're living in these clusters with people from their own culture, right? So they are not feeling that they are belonging to the Swedish society. Therefore, they are having a growing resentment to the Swedish culture.
Why is one specific group acting disproportionately in a certain manner?
So that's why the question in itself doesn't help. So if we're talking about how can social services be better in having contact with the schools that young children are, that's a solution.
Okay.
Or how can the law enforcement, how can they have a better communication with social services and schools?
Okay.
That's a solution. We have already 100 years ago agreed as an international community that there are not different races. You are not born with some kind of qualities that is in line with your skin color or your religion and so on. We don't have any most impact when it comes to gang violence. It's the non-white people in the suburban places where those kind of shootings are going on. They are the biggest victims.
So they're killing each other?
It's not killing each other. It's like
who's killing them?
Criminals that are attacking people in our society.
Who are these criminals predominantly?
I don't know. I don't have any kind of statistics to say that.
Gangs. These are, I wouldn't say 100% immigrants or the children of immigrants, but maybe 95, 99, 98%, something like that. Now, this doesn't mean that indigenous Swedes never commit any crimes at all. They certainly do. Many crimes, especially violent crime, sexual crime, there is a very strong overrepresentation among certain immigrant groups. I would say that people who commit less crimes are, for example, Vietnamese immigrants, Southeast Asian ones, Thai, certainly Japanese, Chinese, while you have very strong overrepresentation when we're talking about groups from the Middle East, North Africa, 25 years. So we've had about 2 million immigrants come to Sweden. If these had been 2 million Norwegians, we wouldn't have this discussion today.
Do you think Sweden has an obligation to help refugees?
Sweden actually has that because after the Second World War, a lot of countries decided to adapt to the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. And one of those human rights is that every person and every human being has a value, and every human being has the right to seek asylum, and nothing has changed. But the only thing that has changed in Europe is that we are heading to more and more fascist and nationalists kind of politics in Europe.
But the question is, why do they go through like 15 countries to come to Sweden?
That's my question. Yeah.
Exactly. So
or both.
I think there are huge economical incentives to come here to Sweden, obviously, but they can do that through the asylum process as well.
This idea from the 60s, right? Like we should have a lot of foreign aid, we should care about the third world, but we should care about Nicaragua, and we should care about Somalia, and we should care, all these countries far away.
Why?
Well, because that was virtuous. They used to say that Sweden is a humanitarian superpower. And there was this idea that, Sweden, after World War II, Sweden together with Switzerland and the US, Sweden was the richest country in the world. And we had this idea, this feeling that we're actually better than other people. We're rich, we're the best, we have the most progressive, most modern society, we're the model for the world. And the fact that we were rich because we had stayed out of World War II and didn't have our industries bombed into dust and could profit from rebuilding all the rest of Europe,
genius.
People didn't want to think about that part. But this meant that we were the best and most virtuous people in the world, the model for the world. Everyone should be like us. We got this idea that Swedishness is not a particular culture. It's not having a common history, a specific language, or anything like that. No, it means being modern. And Sweden was the most modern country in the world. And if you immigrate to Sweden from another country, as soon as you pass the border, you cross the border, you become Swedish, right?
The idea of a national state is old. The national state and the ID doesn't work anymore. Of course, Sweden is multicultural. Sweden works. I don't see any bombs.
No, you're right.
Of course, multicultural is the only way that the world works. People that are nationalists, I think that they are more like nostalgic and thinking about a time that doesn't exist and haven't existed in a long time.
Their premise people are thinking on that everyone wants to become Swedes, right? And when Swedish people meet other people from different cultures, they realize that they don't want the influence except for food or whatever. It's a joke in Sweden. So Swedish people don't want that at all. And not even the one who actually believes that they want to either. They are living on Södermalm here, south of Stockholm, where everyone is Swedes already, hanging out with their Swedish friends, going to Swedish bars.
Are you seeing like Swedish white flight moving out of neighborhoods that are being flooded with new migrants? Is that what's happening?
We have Swedish white flight areas in Sweden. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
If I moved here, would you consider me a Swede after a few years of integration?
No, you are not a Swede. Okay. But that's also all right. You don't have to be a Swede, right? It's not mandatory to be a Swede. If you
Someone would get offended by you saying that, is my guess.
So, yeah, maybe.
How though?
I don't care.
What are your hopes for Sweden in the next 20 years?
I want it to be more of the Sweden that I love. Sometimes I miss my own home country.
That is Sweden?
Yeah, okay. Like I have felt like, especially the last 20 years, I would say, we have had an increase when it comes to hate crimes, when it comes to the impact that the right-wing movement has had. I want it to be the democratic country that I know Sweden is, and there's a whole anti-racist movement here. There are a lot of anti-fascists, and this is my comrades, and I will keep on hoping that we will win.
There's an American saying, if you find yourself in a hole, first thing you do is stop digging, right? The current right-wing government is very anti-immigration, right? The main force of the Swedish left, the Social Democrats, they're moving in that direction as well. And they're surrounded by a large native population. They will be absorbed somehow. But if the immigrants become too many, then they might very well stay unassimilated in their own communities.
And they're the majority.
Yeah, in certain areas, in certain communities, they're definitely the majority, especially because of segregation. There is one important thing, and that is the changes we see in Swedish politics today. They are the biggest changes in Swedish politics for a century. They're the biggest changes in our political structure since Sweden became a full democracy.
I'm quite optimistic for the future in Sweden, but it will take a long time.
Okay.
You have to come back in 10, 15 years and ask me again.
And is remigration a part of this solution, in your opinion?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. Firstly, this with economical incentives, but then will be forced also. I'm pretty sure about that.
When I talk to foreign conservative friends about the changes in Sweden, they often believe this, because it's one thing when you have the right ruling in Poland or in the US or in Slovenia.
Sure.
It's something else entirely when Sweden, the supposed progressive socialist paradise, turns to the right or even the hard right. Then people say, wait, what's going on? Is Sweden perhaps a canary in the coal mine?
As the world continues to globalize and wealthy nations import third world migrants for cheap labor to support their lowering birth rates, and in the name of kindness and diversity, we should be asking ourselves, what is a society and culture willing to sacrifice of itself to accommodate those it welcomes? And is a kebab stand in every street corner worth sacrificing a country's entire culture? What do you think?
Damn. That's crazy, bro. Another great video by Tyler. Yeah, man. I mean, this when Trump gets in, he's already selected. I think all of that immigration stuff to these other countries is gonna stop, bro, on everything. It's gonna stop, man. Watch. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Hey, another great video by Tyler. Thank you. Appreciate you. Like, subscribe. Subscribe. We're on that road to 100, y'all. Once we get that 100, we ain't never gonna see a commercial again, y'all. So appreciate y'all, man.